All right, here we are. In case none of you know who I am, of course none of you do. I am S.J. Mud Turtle Cruises Hubby. And as you know, this is my new bike. And it's an H2 SX. And we'll just do a little walk around. I know S.J. has done similar walk-arounds, so I don't want to regurgitate what she's already done. All right. So let's get fire it up. There we are. Little pipe. All right. Little pipe. Get on. Let's go for a ride. Let's go for a ride. And tell you a little bit about myself. I'm no professional tester, obviously. So you get just an average long-term rider opinion of this bike. It's just an opinion. But long-term rider I am. Been riding longer than I'd like to say, but I'm proud that I've never broken any bones, gotten in too much road rash. And that's due to lady luck, a lot of it. So, why did I buy this bike? It goes with the turn signals again. Why did I buy this bike? Well, I have a fetish for supercharged vehicles. I've owned two automobiles that were factory supercharged, one made by GM, one made by Ford. Still have the one made by Ford. I have a fetish for these things. Excuse me. So, as you all know, this thing is supercharged. And when I saw the first H2s, I said, oh, I'd love to have one of them. Except I couldn't deal with the riding position. I don't care for the riding position on super sport bikes. A little too old for that. So I said to SJ, I said, if they ever come out with one of these that is more or less a standard riding position, which this is very nice. See, I get up on the pegs, real nice and easy. I mean, this is great. The bars are a little far forward. A little farther forward than I'd like, but then at speed out on a super slab, super highway, it's not too bad. But anyway, I guess this still qualifies as on the outside edge. I mean, my feet position are perfect. I'm 5'11". I've got very long legs and short torso. So I've got the legs of a probably 6'2" or 6'3" man, but a torso of a 5'8", 5. Yeah, I'm a little messed up that way. But it works. I don't think any tall fellow would have a problem with this. So, that's it for the riding position. You know, Kawasaki Taos is a sport tourer. I don't know about that. I just, you know, they're sport tours, you know, you don't want to deal with a chain. And maybe you can overlook that, but I think that this bike might be a little uncomfortable to really tour with. You know, that's just my opinion. But they want to call it a sport tour, fine. I don't think it is. But it's I mean, it's nice. I just don't, I couldn't see myself riding 400 miles or a day or 500 miles a day or 600 miles a day on this. That's just me. I'm 66 years old. 6'6". So that about tells you I'm in pretty decent shape though, so why in the hell would anybody want a bike like this at 66? I'll tell you why. Other than a fetish, I know I don't have that many years that I can ride in front of me. Not that many years, maybe even to live. I could be dead in 6 months. I wanted this bike and I got it. And I'm happy I did. So, you know, come along for the ride and we'll talk about it a little bit. Again, I'm no tester. I don't get to test a lot of bikes. I just know the ones that I've had over the years, and you know, this bike, you know, makes me happy, and that's really all that matters. You ride what makes you happy, and with that, a lot of bikes have made me happy. So I never met a bike I didn't like, but let's put it that way. And I've been riding my whole life, so I mean, so let's get back to this thing. In this class of bike, they all got good brakes. They all handle relatively well. I'm talking about 1 liter sport bikes. They were a little heavier than the super sports, but you know, I mean, they all handle really well. I mean, they all brake well. They all handle well. I mean, if you want to start splitting hairs, there may be a bit of difference. I sure as heck can't tell. So you get that out of the way. You know, it's just an average 1 liter bike that weighs 565 pounds. Nothing to write home about, nothing to jump up and down about. It does a good job. And that's really all that matters. Very good manners. As I'm riding it right now, it's got outstanding manners. Outstanding manners. It really does. I mean, the fueling's perfect on it. I'm riding in medium power level right now and traction control number 2. I only have about 800 miles on this, so I haven't explored a lot with this bike. I think the highest lean angle I had it on so far is about 32 degrees, right and left. 31 one way, 32 the other. You know, I don't like to push things until things are touching down, you know. Let me just get that out of the way. So I'm not going to, I mean, my capabilities, I can't even, SJ has an R3. I can't even ride that to its full potential. I mean, I'm not into touching parts of the bike to the ground. It's just not, and it's not going to happen with me at my age. I'm not going to do it. I call that destructive testing. It's destructive on the bike and destructive on you. I mean, there's a lot of riders out there that can do this every day, touch, you know, hit the foot pegs on the ground around the turns, and they, you know, they're just fine with that. I'm not. So I'm just talking about me right now and my interaction with this bike. But having said that, I mean, there's nothing that sticks out as being bad, and nothing really sticks out as being good. I mean, this is from the, you know, the big guns out of Japan, and a 1 liter bike is a 1 liter bike, and they all make good bikes. And the differences between them all are very thin. And the only thing you can talk about is power. And, you know, a lot of people, I haven't beat this thing. Just say, got a little over 800 miles on it. I'm being nice to it. I'm trying to break it in right. So I haven't beat on it. And there's a lot of different ways of describing, you know, hard acceleration. We've all heard the descriptions. I like the one where you're sitting on a devil, you're riding a devil, and the devil just got hit in the rear end with a branding iron. Yeah, that's one way of describing a bike that accelerates hard. I'd like to say, on this bike, as far as the power and acceleration goes, you want to sneak up on it. There's a lot of bikes that accelerate this hard, but not particularly in this weight category. I mean, there's a lot of, 1 liter bikes, normally aspirated, that, can accelerate as hard as this, and harder. But what I'm getting at is, sneak up on it. Don't toddle around and then all of a sudden one day decide you're going to let it rip. You might get surprised. You need to pack a lunch. And there's plenty of articles and magazines and on the internet about how this thing accelerates in the power band and top speed and this, that, and the other thing. I'm never going to go for any of that. One thing I would advise is don't turn the traction control off. If you get down to the least intervention on a traction control, be happy with that. Don't turn it off. There's too many goodies on this bike. I mean, if you can't be happy with this bike with the traction control on the lowest intervention, I don't know what to tell you. You got a death wish. I would only say that the guys that are out there tracking all the time, got a lot of time on the track, but want to do that. Anyway, do I have any beefs about the bike? Yeah, probably. It's got to do with noise at idle. I guess there's a lot of stuff whirling around in this thing associated with the supercharger. The engine makes a little more noise from the engine itself, not the exhaust at idle. I'm used to it now, but if there's any bitch to be had, that would be it. It just makes a little more noise than I'd like to hear. Lets you know there's some machinery rolling around. The engine's very smooth, though. I mean, what I'm trying to say about this bike is it's unremarkable. A lot of people say, well, what do you mean it's unremarkable? How in the hell could you call a bike like that unremarkable? I just did. Again, the big manufacturers, everybody, for a guy like me or most people that just ride around, like riding a little spirited, but not to the point where they're going to get laid out. You like some acceleration on the on-ramp. This will get that done. But unremarkable is actually a good thing, as there's nothing on this bike that sucks that I could find. And just because it's my bike, I would tell you if there's something on this bike I didn't like. I like it all. It's really a well-engineered piece of machinery. I mean, you could tell you're on a bike. There's a little buzz, buzzes here and there like any bike. Some people concentrate on that. This thing has twin counterbalancers. I guess, you're going to get some point of resonance somewhere between the engine and the chassis and this, that, and the other thing at a given RPM. I don't care what bike it is. There's going to be something. If you don't want vibration, go buy an electric bike. There's going to be something. So, enough of that. And like I said, it's just a well-rounded machine, except for the acceleration. And what I mean by that is, SJ has a Ninja 650, a 2017 Ninja 650. And that thing is probably the most well-balanced bike I've ever been on. Very good handling, decent power, decent brakes. I mean, you don't even have to think about riding that bike when you're going down the road on it. You just think where you want to go and it goes. And one thing doesn't override the other. The brakes match the handling, and the handling matches the power. Nothing sticks out as being a little too much, or, suspension's pretty decent out of the box for street use. This thing here, the brakes are good, as you would expect. The handling is decent. I haven't touched a tweaked compression, rebound, preloads. It's just as it came from the dealer. Excuse me. Haven't touched anything. And this thing here, the brakes and the handling are nice. I mean, it's got, like I said, great manners. If you want to just ride normal, not spirited, just ride it. It's got great manners. You would have no idea. If you could hide the idea that this was a 197 or a 200 horse bike, and a person, rode this without knowing that, and they didn't rip the throttle open, they wouldn't have a clue. That's what kind of manners this bike has. It's just really, really great manners. Really is. But what I'm getting at is the power doesn't match the rest. I mean, it's not balanced in that way. The power is what's out of balance with this bike. And there's a lot of bikes, like I said, that have more power than this, have a better power to weight ratio and all. So this isn't the quickest bike out there, but the power really, like I said, you got to pack a lunch. You got to sneak up on the power on this bike. It's just, especially if you haven't ridden a lot of 1 liter bikes and so on, modern 1 liter bikes anyway. It's not something that you want to jump on and go right out and let it rip. That's for sure. You definitely don't. I don't advise it. Put it that way, from my experience. Sneak up on it. Just give it a little, and slowly grab it. And like I say, I have not explored all the power that this bike has. Not even close. Never had it in the highest power setting. And I don't even know whether I will. It's plenty enough for me just as it sits at 75% power level. I mean, and as far as downshifting goes, it's got a lot of torque. You can go into turns in the wrong gear, and as typical with a lot of 1 liter bikes, you could just, unless you want to go in with your hair on fire and come out with your hair on fire, it's plenty good enough. And if you're out on a super highway and you got to pass someone, I mean, if you really want to rip, you could downshift, but 6th gear, roll the throttle on, power builds nicely. That's something I didn't touch on this. The power curve. From what I've seen, the power builds, I mean, it's linear. There's no point where it feels like a big foot come out of the sky and kicked it in the ass. It just builds power through the RPM range in like a linear fashion. I mean, yeah, it's good that way. There's no sudden jolt of power. It's just nice and linear, and just want to sneak up on it, that's all. But anyway, I'm very, very happy with it. I'm getting great fuel mileage with it. I had it out the other day, and a combination of super highway and secondary roads like I'm on now, and I come home and it said I got 47 miles a gallon. And I think on the super highway I was averaging about 75 miles an hour. That's what it takes today on that particular road to keep up with traffic and not put yourself in danger. And it's really does a good job with that. All the power you'd ever need. Really. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because I haven't had a modern 1 liter bike of Japanese manufacturer in years, and I mean, I put a lot of miles under my butt over the years, but the technology's moved forward, as we all know, so quickly that it's kind of hard to gauge how a bike is going to run when you're looking back over your shoulder so many years. I tend to put a lot of miles on bikes or keep them for a long time. And I don't get off them. If I'm happy with what I have, I'll put 50, 60, 70,000 miles on them. At least that's my past experience. So I've had bikes that I put a lot of miles on and kept them for a long, long time. So I don't do a change up. Just been riding for a long time. Enjoy it. It's in my blood. It's like a disease. You either like it or you don't. I happen to love it. And it'll be with me till the day I die. And if I ever get to a point where I'm too decrepit to get on a bike and ride it, I'll still have the shakes and the need for a fix to ride my whole life. So that's about it. I can't think of much else. I mean, SJ pretty much covered all the neat goodies on this thing. And one thing she didn't cover, there's down on the dash, I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, in one of her videos she did a description of what was on the dash. There's a little snake thing in there, and that's the IMU. That's the 6-axis stuff. Real important. Anyway, that keeps the front wheel down. Also on this bike, it ties in to the ABS and keep you from, or try to keep you from doing a stoppie. So if you get in a situation where you try to grab a handful of brakes and you mess it up somehow, you know, there's something there looking out for you so you don't do a stoppie, because all these bikes have, as you know, you guys know, they have great brakes. So that's always one thing I'm afraid of when I'm riding a modern bike without a feature like that, that God forbid I have to grab the brake. You know, the idea of it coming over on me and on top of me is, in an emergency stop situation, is, yeah, really something serious to think about. So, and with this bike here, I feel really good about that. You know, I practiced some emergency stopping already, and it feels really good. Nothing to, you know, really get crazy with, just enough to, you know, get the feel how the bike stops when you're really trying to stop it hard, you know. And I'm in a 30 miles an hour zone, and I'm doing 40, and I hope he kept rolling. That's one thing about this bike. I mean, you want to talk about vibration, all levels. This bike's pretty smooth, and you don't get a lot of feedback with it. So, having said that, you know, it's kind of hard to do 25 miles an hour unless you're constantly looking at the speedometer, because the levels of vibration on this bike are just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. So, anyhow, I hope you didn't turn around. Down here, they got, every police car has radar on board. I don't know, different states do different things, but I need a ticket like I need a hole in my head. I've gone a lot of years without a ticket. I don't want to start getting them now. I was sleeping, worrying about talking about this video. But anyway, that's the little IMU, and then there's a little symbol next to it that when that's on, you're driving at in a range that's going to give you good fuel mileage. So that's, I think SJ may have missed those two things. As far as looking at all the other stuff she talked about, man, I don't want to be looking at lean angle while I'm going in a turn. You know, there's a lot of stuff in there. You really need to wait till you get home and look at it. I don't want to be looking at boost. I could give a goddamn what, you know, the boost is. I really could care less. You know, I'm from the old school. Give me a goddamn tachometer, give me a speedometer, and I'm good. I don't need all that other stuff. I mean, you don't want to take your eyes off the frickin' road to look at that crap. I mean, if you're really riding spirited around a corner or around a turn, and you're really hanging it out, you really want to take the moment to look down at your lean angle? No, I don't recommend that. And, you know, same thing with boost. If you're dead into this thing, you're probably looking at the tack, you're looking at your speed. You really want to look at the boost? Really? Unless you're having trouble with the bike. That might be a different story. Might give you an idea. But good Lord. Anyway, they put that stuff on there, and the SE model, the one above this, even has more stuff on it. It's not just a TFT display. That display does a lot more than this one does. Which gets me back to, why didn't you buy an SE? Because I didn't like the colors. It's just a personal thing with me. I was willing to get this color, and I'm not in love with blacks, and it's got metallic flake in it. I mean, it's pretty, or gray, whatever they call it. It's very pretty. I'm not in love with it. I like to be a little more visible, but these are the two colors available here this year. And I didn't want to wait around to see what other colors are going to be available next year, and so on and so forth. So, other than that, I would have gotten the SE, because I like all the stuff that's on there. Whether I'd use it or not is another story. But you know, I mean, it's got a lot of nice stuff on it. So yeah, if it weren't for the color, I would have gone for it. It's a nice bike, and a lot of neat features on it. And SJ covered, I think, all of them. I don't think she came up, though. She just said it's got a TFT display, but it's a much nicer display. You can see it better, and it does more stuff. If you're looking to more stuff, it does more stuff. Oh, they're on two wheels, even four wheels. How much frickin' stuff do you need? You know, that's my idea on it. It's and this is, guys, this is just my opinion. How much stuff do you really want to look at? I mean, it's great to look at right until you run into the back of somebody, and then it's not so good to look at. Where I ride motorcycles, and you know, I mean, I was young once on them, and used to ride around like a nut, and I was very lucky. Because I rode with Lady Luck for a long time. I didn't even know what the hell I was doing, but I rode for a lot of miles and didn't have a clue as to what I was doing. Back in those days, there wasn't a lot of good information available. There really wasn't. And I don't want to. I just don't even want to get into how many miles I rode, and I didn't have a clue. But then the information on how to ride good information became readily available, and I started practicing that stuff, and oh yeah, lit up a whole new world. And then, you know, today I look back and I say, geez, I'm lucky I survived that. You know, a lot of old time ideas were passed forward, were taken as the gospel, and even ideas that go back to before roads were paved in a lot of cases, and how to ride that. Just a lot of bad information that was available when I started riding, and not a lot of good information. It's a shame, but it is what it is. I'm just lucky I made it through it. Some of my friends did not. And I stress that. There are old riders and there are bold riders, but there are no old, bold riders, and I stress that. You know, it's I can't stress that enough. I mean, when you're young, you don't realize, and I didn't. I wasn't perfect. I mean, I didn't realize. Not only that, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and there wasn't any good information out there at the time that I could find to learn how to do things what you would call the right way, what techniques to use that really work, you know, and proven from thousands and hundreds of thousands and maybe millions of miles of riding to a consensus. That information wasn't out there then. And if it was kept close to the chest because I never saw it. But a lot of my friends when I was younger aren't here today. And I really stress a lot of it was because they didn't have the right information in their hands. and that's a shame. Anyway, back to the bike. I hope I've, given some layman ideas about this thing. Not professional tester ideas, but some layman's ideas about what to expect out of this bike. All I could tell you is I love this bike. The only thing is that constant little... I still, at my age, have that two little personalities. One that sits on the right shoulder and one that sits on the left shoulder. And the one that sits on the left shoulder is a pretty sensible fella. And the one that sits on the right shoulder, he thinks he's 18. And he always tells me to do things that aren't good for my health. A whole lot of areas. It's just not motorcycles. He whispers all kinds of things in my ear. And I like what he says, but what that guy talks about can get me in a lot of trouble. So I like listening to the guy on the left. And, when you're on any motorcycle, I don't care how much power it has. If you have those two little voices or those two little personalities, one's telling you, go ahead, do it. Oh, it'll be fun. It'll be great. Oh, you'll love it. Go ahead, do it. And the other guy's saying, no, that's going to get you in trouble. Listen to the guy that's telling you don't do it. And, that's one of the things with Lady Luck that's helped me put as many miles on bikes as I have. And I've gotten quite a bit of miles under my butt. And like I say, a lot of it was with luck. And when you get right down to it, skill will only get you so far. Somebody runs a red light. Runs a stop sign. Makes a bad left-hand turn in front of you. You guys know all that. Luck can only take you so far. Or rather, riding ability can only take you so far. But luck was with me because I had no riding ability for a long, long time. So, anyway, that's it, guys. We're going to blow out of here. I hope you found this useful. I may do dual vlogs with SJ from time to time, but you'll probably see very little of me. And, hey, you all keep two wheels down, huh? It's fun. It's a disease. We're all addicted. Live a long life and have a lot of fun. Life is short. See you guys later. Have fun. Love this bike. Get one. Bye. All right, let's see how the fuck this came out.